Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast powered by Riverwind Casino. Brandon Drum, Parker Thune, Travis Davison, aka Grill Boy. Man, South Carolina week, it's here. Oklahoma 5-1 after the 23-6 loss to arch rival Texas Longhorns. And we'll quickly recap that just a little bit, get Travis's takes on that, just talk about that for a bit. And then we're going to move forward to South Carolina Gamecocks, where the 3-3 Gamecocks are looking to right the ship. They have been kind of a win-loss every other game type season for them so far this season. I got to tell you guys, though, this game, make or break, man. It feels like it feels very, very must win for both programs. Weird how that happens. Like Oklahoma felt like they were on top of the world, ranked 6th in the country. One game changed it all up. And it's not just because of the one game. I think it's how it went down more
Well,
than anything else.
and to a certain extent, that's just life in the SEC, though. I mean, the schedule's a meat grinder for Oklahoma in particular, and there are myriad opportunities for this thing to start to tailspin out of control, which let's acknowledge that if the Sooners went and lost a second straight this weekend in Columbia, that'd be about where things are at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's one of those things, something we've just got to get used to where, you talk to national people or people that have been in the SEC for a long time. They're like, all right, you lost to Texas. Like, okay, it's just on to the next week. Like, just week by week, where I think OU fans have so much scar tissue built up of not only last year, but 2022, 6 and 7 again, where it's like the Texas game, you had people that were like, all right, we're not going to win another game. Just not going to win another game. You play badly, you're not going to win another game. You feel like all of the ghosts of Brent Venables' past are coming and going to help derail this season, whether it's clock management, substitution errors, whether it's injuries even out of their control along the offensive line, whether it's struggling to get a run game going again for another year. It's just tough because it's easy to see kind of that scar tissue start to show up with Sooner fans. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. If Oklahoma loses this game, not only will Oklahoma fans feel like, oh no, here we go, we're going to miss a bowl. You can't blame some people in the locker room thinking, here we go again. They can say all the right things. Hey, look, we're taking a game at a time, this, that, and the other. But if you've been in Oklahoma for a while, you can't help but start to feel that kind of losing season closing in if you lose back-to-back after starting 5-0. Because Oklahoma started off well in the past years and absolutely tanked at the end of the season. So Oklahoma's going to have to find a way to get past those demons and go win a game in Columbia, South Carolina.
This year it just felt different though, like to me, and we'll get to thanking our sponsors here in just a second, but I just wanted to say like it felt different because you had the win over Michigan, right? You had the win over Auburn, and those are names when you look in the lore of college football, you're like, okay, that is how you propel yourself into this stratosphere of, the next stage in Brent Venables' career as a head coach. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that picked Oklahoma to lose to Texas, right? Like they picked Oklahoma to go 5-0, but to lose to Texas and then to end up 9-3. And I think that's something OU fans have to get used to, like you said, Travis, and like you said, Parker. Like it's you can't predict Oklahoma to go 9-3 to start the season, and then the second they lose a game, go, all right, this is it. It's now downhill from here. You can't. There's no good that's going to come from this season anymore because of that. But again, I said this the last few days. I said it on my OU VIP chat. I said it on the live last night. Fanaticism. There's a reason why it's fanaticism. It's one extreme to the next. There is not a whole lot of middle ground with fandom at all. You're either on top of the world or you're at the bottom of the mountain, you're in the valley, and you can't find your way back up. Like there's no way possible. And the reality is it's somewhere in the middle, and you can find your way. They've done it before. Oklahoma's lost before, and I know it was in the Big 12, but they've lost before. And let's remember, like 2000, and I think because of what 2010 to 2023 Big 12 turned into, people forget the meat grinder that 1996 to 2009 Big 12, or 2011, I guess would be probably the fair assessment. Meat grinder the Big 12 was. It was a meat grinder back then. And the fans forgot. They forgot the Big 12 for so long and had so many cupcakes, and Brent Venables was right when he said that. And he took shots from the Big 12, but what he said was true. What he said was true. I'm sorry. Like, he was a part of the 13 years of OU owning the Big 12, even during that meat grinder period. So, like, he understands that more than anybody else. So, anyways,
my point he's just he's a poor messenger for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's a poor messenger.
It's like if Bob Stoops says it, fine. Even if Lincoln Riley says it, fine.
Correct.
But like,
you were the DC at the time, not the head coach. Correct.
Well, and also, like, even if you're Brent Venables when he arrived at OU before he even had a head coaching season, like, you can say it then, but you cannot say it when you struggled, especially in your first year. Well, in the Big 12, 167 season then. So but to your point about, fanaticism and the highs and lows, I mean, it's kind of what they have to watch on media these days too, right? I mean, every single post or every single thumbnail is, look at Arch Manning, the best prospect since, whatever, right? This, that, and the other. And then Arch Manning, biggest flop ever, worst flop. Like, it's just, you have to get so extreme in order to even, like, show up. Like, you're not going to show up in people's algorithms, or you're not going to go viral, or you're not going to, your tweet's not going to stand out if you're like, yeah, I think everything's just okay. We'll see how it goes. Everybody's like, no, I need a hot take. I need you to fire somebody. I need you to, do what I need you to do, something dramatic. I need you to do. He's either the Heisman winner or we're kicking him off the team, like one of the two. Like so. It's even within the media that you get such big swings of emotion, because it's really the only way that a lot of people feel like their voice is going to get heard.
Yeah, I mean, you get people like us that get called freaking homers or sunshine pumpers because we don't go one extreme to the other a lot of times too. So there's that as well.
Yeah, but I put out that video about. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Finish your take.
Well, I put up that video about, hey, look, I think this team is far too one-dimensional in the like different position groups, which obviously is like a coaching issue. It's a roster building issue. It's a lot. But people in the bottom were like, just say fire the coaches. Come on, say it with your chest. Just say fire them. I'm like, that's not what this, like, there's a certain level of take like that is expected of people who have takes for a living. I was like, I'm not just going to get it, fire this guy. Like, no, like, we gotta elevate above that. But that's what the people want. They want blood on their pitchfork. So, Parker, go ahead.
Yeah, folks, we need to get our bills paid before we move any further. First and foremost, shout out to Riverwind Casino, our presenting sponsor. It's been OKC's premier gaming destination for nearly 2 decades now. Almost 3,000 electronic games, table games, bars and dining options, plus the best live music in the metro. It's no surprise that Riverwind is always a good time. Thank you to Jana King, a proud partner of OU Athletics and the greatest team to ever clean, delivering spotless results and solutions from stadiums to any size business across the country. Check out which of their solutions is best for you by going to janiking.com. That's JANIKING.com. A word from Bubs Naturals. Folks, starting in your mid-20s, your collagen production starts to naturally decline in your body. That's where Bubs Naturals collagen peptides comes in. Bubs helps restore collagen levels closer to what your body naturally had in its youth, so your joints feel stronger, your hair and nails grow healthier, and your skin looks smoother. Collagen is the most abundant protein in the body and is often referred to as the glue that holds our bodies together. Bub's Naturals is also a tribute to former Navy SEAL Glenn Bub Doherty, who was a national hero, laid down his life saving Americans in Benghazi, Libya. Glenn was a friend to so many, including the Bub's founder, Sean Lake. His call sign in the Navy was Bub. So Glenn Doherty stood for self-improvement and was always helping others. That DNA is woven into the Bub's brand. Live better longer for a limited time only. Our listeners are getting 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using code OU Insider at checkout. Just head to bubsnaturals.com and use code OU Insider, and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. And finally, folks, whether you're watching NFL, college football, MLB, whatever this fall, you can turn your ball knowledge into real monetary winnings at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, of course, is quite simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least two player stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. So don't miss any of the excitement this football season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code OU Insider to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code OU Insider to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
All right, guys. Just this week, I mean, we just talked about it, but how must win do y'all think this weekend actually really is?
It's a must win. It's the first. Yeah, it's the first true must win of the year, and there'll be fans that hear me say that. And, well, Texas is always a must win. Be that as it may, that's more from an emotional perspective than anything else. Yes, you feel like you got to beat Texas every single year to be able to endure the 365 days that follow, or the 364 days that follow, I suppose. But if we're talking about what it's going to take for this team to accomplish their goals, get to where they want to go, get to where they can go as a team in 2025, this is the first game on the calendar that feels like an absolute must win. Because 6-1 with no losing streak to speak of feels a heck of a lot different than 5-2 on a 2-game skid.
Yeah, I think that people are allowed to change their expectations when it comes to specific teams, right? I think a lot of us, if we would have said, "Hey guys, say you go 5-0 and you split the next two games at South Carolina and at the time #1 ranked Texas," and everybody bid, "Hey, sounds good to me." You know what I mean? Like, all good. Even a lot of people were saying South Carolina might be the toughest game of the year, considering it was just after Texas, emotional, on the road. Lenore Sellers on a lot of preseason lists. Obviously, you know what they have in Dylan Stewart. Nick Harbor's always a problem. So you do that, but then now we get here finally to October and we say, man, that might be the worst Texas team we've played in the last 4 years, and that game wasn't particularly close in the end. And then South Carolina's 3-3, and that offense looks like a mess. They just fired their offensive line coach mid-season. They've got a lot of injuries on that side of the ball as well. They're not running the ball well. Lenore Sellers only has 4 touchdowns. You change your expectations to where at one time you thought, man, out to South Carolina, that's going to be one of the toughest games on the schedule. Now, guys, it looks like the most winnable game left on the schedule. So you've got to go get this win in Columbia, however it needs to be done. This isn't going to be a, man, I'll be upset if we win, but we don't run the ball. I'll be upset if we win. No, none of that. SEC road win, you take it, you say thank you, and you get out of Dodge.
Yeah, this game just overall to me, Sandstorm, Space Odyssey, 2001 Space Odyssey, all that type of stuff. Like, just from a perspective of what's cool for the fans to go see, what's cool for everybody that's going to go see in person. Like, that's you're checking that off the bucket list, right? But as far as just like the must win aspect of it, if Oklahoma loses this game, it's going to be really hard to believe they have any sort of shot against Ole Miss, even at home. It just is. So, and I don't know that that's going to be the feeling inside the locker room, but just from our perspective, it's reality. Um, Mateer has to show up, and he's got to play better. And I don't think Oklahoma wins if Mateer has any sort of turnover issues this weekend. So, um, this is just from a confidence, from a everything's all right. This is just the way, as you guys talked about earlier, just the way that the SEC is type of perspective. Yeah, you got to go on the road. You got to win. Travis, you talked about just the run game. Yeah, I think that's a must, though. The run game has to be. I don't know that OU wins if the run game's just awful. I don't know that you can. They have two of the best edge rushers in the country. You cannot let them get in third and longs and feel like, you know, Brian Thomas Jr., Dylan Stewart, all those guys just can pin their ears back. It's like R. Mason Thomas on third and long. Like, you know, he's going to get in your grill. You know it's coming. So what? There are so many things that have to work right for OU to win this weekend. And I don't think it's because I think South Carolina is that much better. I just think OU is a flawed team. They're a good team, but they're a flawed team. And their flaws are in the wrong places.
Well, honestly, here's the thing. I don't know that the recipe is all that complex for Oklahoma. Like they're an excellent defensive team. We've seen that. John Mateer's performance against Texas last week, we have every reason to believe that that is an aberration and that
For
will
sure.
not be repeated. And so to me, it's as simple as, okay, play good defense. We know Oklahoma's going to do that. Got to get a better performance from John Mateer. That's a perfectly fair expectation to have. I don't know why John Mateer wouldn't perform measurably better than he did last week against Texas. It's hard to imagine him playing that poor of a game 2 weeks in a row. And so then at that point, it comes down to, well, establish the run. If you can do those three things, play good defense, get a solid outing from your quarterback, and establish the run, then you're in position to take home the win against a team like South Carolina and against a lot of teams in the SEC, because that recipe, simple as it may be, is going to be good enough. Now, again, we can count on Oklahoma to play good defense. I think we can count on John Mateer to bounce back. Can we count on Oklahoma to establish the run? That remains to be determined. And that, I think, is going to dictate the outcome of this game more so than anything else. Can Oklahoma finally find the run game?
Well, and with that, I think where I was going with it was if Oklahoma wins the game, no matter how they do it, I don't want to start complaining about how they did it. If they didn't do it by running the ball, or if they didn't do it, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for post game analysis to be like, man, I can't believe we couldn't run the ball. I'm not happy with this win at all, But I think we've all known all season. We're 6 games in, guys. Like, we can't run the ball. Why can't we run the ball? What do we need to do differently to try and run the ball? And I mean, I'm willing to say, I just want to see Torrey Blaylock get like 25 carries. Like, I want to see them stick with a back. I remember there was a moment in time, guys, in Oklahoma football history that like a running back would get a series, not like 2 plays, like not 3 plays, not, constant subbing out. Like, the spread of carries in the running back room right now is truly insane. I mean, you've got guys that, Jaden Ott, everybody confused about what he's 21 carries this year. He's got two games with 1 carry, 2 games with 4 carries, and a game at Kent State with 11 carries. Like, it's just a shotgun spread of carries with these guys. I think at some point you just need to say, hey, look, who are our best 2? Who are our most well-rounded 2, so we can call more of our plays, so we can put them in positions to block, so we can put them in positions to run outside, run inside, catch the ball, whatever. Take your 2 that are your best balanced, most rounded, and just go with them, man. Whether it's 2 back sets, whether it's, more of a bell cow situation, just do that, because you're already going to struggle to run block. The worst thing you can do then is make sure that none of your running backs ever get in any rhythm. And then none of your offense ever gets in rhythm because you can't run any tempo. You can't, get in that if you're constantly, hey, sub in and then the defense slow subs. I mean, you're going to run into that like crazy against Ole Miss because they love to stop the clock and slow sub and everything like that. So when it comes to the run game, I feel like we keep on, throwing out our line to try and catch a fish, and we let it sit in the water for 15 seconds. Then we reel it in, we switch bait, and then we recast, and then we let it sit there for 10 seconds, and then we reel it in. Like we don't know. We haven't allowed anybody to get into any rhythm at all, and that's what's been so maddening about the run game. I'd love to see that change this week. If Xavier Robinson is healthy and Torrey Blaylock's good to go, I think those two are the guys that I want to see personally.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two I think you have to look at, and you have to get going. They both last year, Xavier Robinson looked to be the best back Oklahoma had, right, when he was healthy. This year, Torrey Blaylock looks to be kind of on that same trajectory that Xavier Robinson on, probably better actually than Xavier Robinson was last year. Those are your two best backs. And I don't really think it's close right now. Now, I will say this. I had a conversation with somebody last night, and their exact words to me was this: Taylor Tatum's the most talented running back in the room. It's not even close. However, he still has to remain the issues of just not understanding, not getting it, not understanding the college football world, and I'm paraphrasing and I'm really sugarcoating what they said just so we're being clear here. It was a lot more blunt than that, but he's his own worst enemy essentially right now. And there's some belief that he might be the most talented overall player period on the team. And that's the rub that Oklahoma has right now. When you've got a guy that has that type of talent and he could help you, but he just can't figure it out, whether it's mentally, emotionally, whatever. And it's the same crap I've been saying for a while, guys, with him. It's the same stuff over and over and over. They think he's turning the corner, and then he does something, and they're like, what the hell? Why? Like, why are we, why? And
You know who that sounds like?
Who?
Like if you just remove the name from that description, you know who that sounds like? That sounds exactly like Devon Mitchell.
Oh my God, does it not? That's really good. I didn't even think about that. Yep. It's sad because Devon Mitchell right now, if he could have ever figured it out. And we talked about this last night on the live, Parker, how the tight ends can't block, right? He was the perfect guy. Could block, was big, was strong, fast, and could catch. You know what he couldn't do? Mentally and emotionally couldn't figure it out. He had there's a reason why he was listed as one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends in the 2025 class. Like, he was awesome in high school. It got away from, there's reasons why. I don't even get into why, but it just never could work out, and Oklahoma just cut ties. I don't think it's to that point with Taylor Tatum at all yet. As a matter of fact, I think they're going to give it, if he sticks around, one more college try, ironically. Next year with him, he's going to go play baseball, obviously. But if it doesn't work out in year 3, yeah, I think it's, at some point he's got to figure it out. You would think. You would hope. Because he has the potential to be, brother, I'm watching him during the warm-ups at Texas, and that my first thought was, bro, he moves so much differently than everybody else. Like, just like, he looks good just in warm-up. Like, you watch him warm-ups, you're like, that's the guy. That's the guy. But he hasn't touched the field this year. Like, not even kickoff return. They have Jacob Jordan back there with Isaiah Satania. Not Taylor Tatum. Remember, he did kickoff returns last year. But he's so far gone right now mentally that he's not even doing special teams. It's crazy how far a 5-star has fallen. It's crazy. Anyways, I do agree with your point, Travis. Like, it doesn't matter if Oklahoma wins. Like, it's a win. Move on. Continue to work the run game during the week, and hope, pray to God that you can figure it out. It was like the passing game last year, right? Like, you knew OU was going to run the ball fairly well last year with the QB run game, and whoever they had, whether it was Xavier Robinson, Javante Barnes back there, they weren't going to get like they weren't going to be 1,000-yard rushers, but they were going to run the ball well enough to move the chains a little bit. It was the 3rd and 5 situation where you had to pass the ball that was like, oh crap, here we go. Like, that was the crapshoot last year. This year it's flipped, where it's all right, 1st and 10. You're going to run the ball. 2nd and 8 or 9, you're probably going to run the ball. All right, you figure Mateer's probably going to get the first down on a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6 situation. And I know that, and I have to ask, because somebody said this to me last night, guys, and this goes with the run game. And I don't know if they're wrong, because it kind of sounds right. And they were like, like, I just don't know if the staff is okay with 3 yards in a cloud of dust. They said, the run game gets 3 yards, right? If you're averaging 3 yards a carry, how is that bad? If you get a 3 yards on a first down, 3 yards on a second down, and it's 3rd and 4, isn't that kind of where you want to be in a 3rd and short situation, 3rd and medium, kind of mid-range situation with John Mateer at quarterback? Why is that a bad thing? Why get away from that? Why not just be 3 yards in a cloud of dust? He said, it's almost like whoever is in charge feels like if they're not getting chunk plays, it's not working. You're just going to get away from it altogether. And that's exactly that. It feels like that's what's happened. Like, and you talked about that, Travis, like running backs used to get 25 carries, right? They don't do that. Like, if they're not getting 6, 7, 5 yards a carry, you're just going to scrap the run game altogether. And I think the fan base has taken that mindset, because that's what essentially Kennedy Brooks spoiled the crap out of everybody, because that's what he did. He was a different type of back, special, patient, could do those type of things. But Kennedy Brooks was a rare college specimen at running back when it came to that. Like, there's not very many people that did what he did patient-wise, and had that perfect speed to be able to break through the second layer. He never could break the long run, but he would get you 8, 9, 10 yards, 20 yards at a time sometimes. But what's wrong with 3? 3 times 4 is 12, right? If you got 3 yards of carry, that is a first down every 4 downs. Like, what's wrong with that?
Well,
what's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. Just that the inherent assumption there is that you can get 3 yards on every single carry.
For sure. But OU is averaging around 2.8, 3 yards a carry, something like that right now. Right?
Yeah, but again, like if you could ensure that you were going to gain 3 yards on every single carry such that you could sustain an entire drive that way, no one would ever throw the ball. Right?
Well, no, I understand. I'm not saying don't ever throw the ball. Like, I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with going 3 yards, 3 yards? Okay, get the first down on a rollout with Mateer, boom, boom, or he takes off and runs if it's there, boom, and then do that all over again, or at least get the drive going by doing that. I'm talking about, and keep the defense on the field, the opposing defense on the field longer than what Oklahoma has, because lately it's been, they've done long drives. They did long drives against Texas, and they just couldn't finish it. I understand that. But what's wrong with 3 yards a carry, essentially? Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, what's wrong with that on the first 2 plays, get 6 yards, and then pass for 5 or 6 to get a first down? Like, what's wrong with that? Like, why get away from that and be that balanced?
Yeah. Nothing's wrong with it, but you need explosives. Like,
you do need explosive, but that's the passing game.
Well, you could, in our offense currently, but there was a day where Oklahoma had explosive running plays too. So,
well, what about Michigan? Like, Michigan did it. They got like 3 yards of carry, then boom, they bust one.
No,
right?
we're agreeing with you. But when it comes to, I think when you talk about keeping the defense on the field, I think that comes down to our addiction to substitutions. Like the reason that I really, point to, Blaylock and Xavier Robinson is because Jade Knott doesn't want to hit anybody, but he's a
No.
dynamic runner. Now, Javante Barnes will hit everybody, but he's not as dynamic of a runner as some of the other guys.
He'll
But you
run
can
in the
trust
back of
him
the
to
offensive
block.
line, by God.
But with Torrey Blaylock and with Xavier Robinson, you get a bit more well-rounded. They're not the blocking that you get with Javante, but they're certainly willing blockers, which is what at least the bare minimum should be. And then they're
Mhm.
both dynamic runners. They've got speed. They can catch out of the backfield. I mean, I'm thinking back to Eric Gray in 2022. He had 213 carries. Like nobody's going to get above 130, 140 in this offense unless something changes pretty dramatically. I mean, you had Torrey Blaylock kind of bell cowed early, but he's at 60 something and we're halfway through. So it's just wild to me that we keep on spreading it out this much. Get with a guy, stick with a guy, let him get in rhythm, and then be done with it. Because we've talked about this for 2 years, guys. Which running back's going to break out this week? Which running back's going to break out this week? It may have been 3 years, and we get on every pregame pod and we say which running backs, because isn't that crazy? Like, is that not crazy that we can't just show up to a pregame pod and know who the running back is that's going to have, a bulk of the carries or a big day? Like every other college football team knows that. Why is it that at Oklahoma, 3 years in, we're like, man, I wonder which running back's going to step up today? Like, we shouldn't roll the dice 12 times a year, guys. Like, and that's my biggest frustration. I would
Mhm.
love to get on next week's pod and just say, how many yards is starting bell cow running back Torrey Blaylock going to have? Not which one of our 5 running backs is going to lead the team in carries this week.
It does sound like Torrey's going to be the guy, though. Like the way they make it sound like.
Please.
Sounds like Torrey's going to be. Like it's almost as if you're starting to see it lean more and more that way. And in the second half against Texas, it felt like he was getting the majority of the carries. I thought, though, I did think before Xavier Robinson got injured, I thought he started to really get in a groove, and that was good to see before he got hurt, though. And then it just went downhill after that. But um, Lenora Sellers, on the flip side of things, and this is one of my keys to victory is containing Lenore. And I think that goes without saying. I think that's kind of a given. However, the way that Arch Manning was able to escape was worrisome, to say the least. The game before you play literally the most mobile quarterback you're going to play all season. And maybe the strongest quarterback you're going to play all season. You talk about Arch Manning just sliding out of tackles and sacks the way he did last Saturday. Better figure it out, guys, because you do that to Lenore Sellers and he's 88 and out the gate. You're not catching him. He is about as tough of a tackle in open field as you can get at the quarterback position. It's that is going to be kind of one of the games within the games to me on Saturday. 100% containing Lenore Sellers, because he did it against LSU quite a bit last Saturday, kept them in the game by just getting out of sacks that he had no business getting out of. And I understand that's who he is, but he's also one to make some errant throws when forced into pressure. He's gotten lucky a few times that I've watched this season as far as dropped interceptions and stuff, but um, man, I don't know your all's thoughts on it, but to me, that's the game within the game is keeping him at bay.
I mean, just as John Mateer is the heart and soul of Oklahoma's offense and part and parcel of their identity, even more so than the typical quarterback is. I think the same is true of Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. And Oklahoma did a good job of defending Sellers a year ago. That's easy to forget because that game was so lopsided. South Carolina won 35-9, but after Oklahoma essentially spotted the Gamecocks 21 points to open the game, I mean, it was 21-0 after the first 6 minutes. That became kind of a standoff for the remainder of the football game. And Lenora Sellers, I think Oklahoma did close to as good a job as any defense all year in dealing with the threat that Lenora Sellers presents as a runner and as a thrower. So, man, it's going to be a stiff test for this unit, but I think for the most part, they've passed every single test that's been issued to them thus far. They weren't perfect against Texas, but they played well enough to win. I'll stand by that. They forced Arch Manning to make some high-level throws to beat them.
Yeah.
And the tackling can get better, as we know. They struggled to bring down Trey Wisner for the second straight year, but this is a unit that's playing well enough that you don't really worry about Sellers just absolutely dissecting this Oklahoma defense. He's going to get his at a certain point. Like, they're going to move the ball. You're not going to be able to completely power down the Gamecock offense, but it's more about just making sure that the big plays don't beat you. Because, man, that has been an unfortunate trend and a discouraging trend for Oklahoma, is that a lot of times throughout this season, they've given up scoring plays. They've given up big plays on just blown assignments, missed assignments, right? You saw it in the Texas game when Arch Manning hit DeAndre Moore, who was all alone in the back of the end zone. You rewind to the Michigan game. Everybody whiffs on the run fit, and Justice Haynes is coasting 75 yards to the house. And we don't need to relitigate all of the instances in the Auburn game where Jackson Arnold had opportunities to hit Cam Coleman for touchdown passes and couldn't convert on any of them. So to me, it's about making sure that whether it's Lenora Sellers through the air or Lenora Sellers with his legs on the ground, keep the big plays, keep the explosives to a minimum. If you can do that, if you can make a quarterback nickel and dime you to death, then I think as a defense, you've got him right where you want him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Lenora Sellers, I mean, he was one of my favorite quarterbacks coming into the year just because of the challenges he presents. 6'3", 240. I mean, he's tough to bring down. He's fast. He's got a big arm. But, man, he's been really disappointing. And I don't know if it's just the fact their offensive line cannot protect him, but I'm glad Parker brought up last year. Oklahoma was sacked 9 times last year. Well, Lenora Sellers was sacked 7 times. So, I mean, it's, everybody forgets about that game because of how Oklahoma started it. But to Parker's point, like, Lenora Sellers had real problems in that game. He's coming off an LSU game where, he had 0 touchdowns, passing or running, had the pick, and he's only got 1 rushing touchdown this year, guys. And it came in the opener against Virginia Tech. Like, this is a guy that will run, he will escape the pocket, but he's not a guy, at least this year, that's been housing them if he just sees a little bit of space. I mean, it didn't happen against Sacramento State or South Carolina State. It didn't happen against, Vanderbilt, Mizzou, Kentucky, anybody. I mean, they haven't exactly had the murderer's row that they're about to face. They've had a tough schedule, but not the murderer's row that they're about to face. And I think this is the best defense that they've faced. And I think Oklahoma's going to be able to get pressure with their front four. Mm-hmm. I just think he likes to extend the plays, but what does he have downfield? Coverage has to hold up, but defenders cannot get so far upfield on the edges to let him escape through that gap, because that happened, a couple times against Texas. Arch played well. He made timely throws, especially that one along the sideline. We'll always remember it, with them backed up in their own territory. He threw for 166 yards against Oklahoma. So, people that are like, oh, Arch torched Oklahoma. No, Arch made timely throws, and they threw for 166 yards. So that's why when everybody, when all the defensive rankings came out of, yards per play and passing play and all this kind of stuff on Sunday, people were like, no, this can't be right. Texas just loaded up, just demolished the Oklahoma defense. No, they gave up 1 touchdown to Texas's offense. 1. So like you have to, I think, still continue to have the utmost confidence in this defense to be able to handle Lenore Sellers in a limited offensive line that he's going to be standing behind. I think they should have a big day.
Yeah. So to your point on the defense last Saturday, just real quick, it felt that way because the offense was so bad for Oklahoma. When the offense plays so bad and the defense makes just one mistake, it magnifies the defensive mistake. And that's why it felt like it was so daunting with what Oklahoma gave up. They didn't give up. I think it gave up like 306 total yards or something like that. It wasn't that much. Like it was wild how little they gave up. And everybody talks about, Wisner. He struggled outside of two runs. He had two big runs, two chunk runs. Outside of that, he was stuffed all day. So I again, like you said, I think the defensive front's the main thing for Oklahoma. They have to get after that offensive line unit, who's got a brand new offensive line coach. Obviously, Ronnie Teasley was just let go. I'm trying to remember the guy's name they just hired.
Sean Elliott.
Sean Elliott. Yep, used to be at Georgia State. Yeah, they got to figure it out now. He's a really good coach, but this is week one of him actually doing the offensive line. He was, with the tight ends and everything before that. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that works out for South Carolina. On the flip side, the other big game within the game is Michael Fasusi and Derek Simmons versus Brian Thomas Jr. and Dylan Stewart. Yikes. 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 Now, obviously, Kennard's not there anymore. And I know you fans are saying praise Jesus. And I had my man Chris Clark from Gamecock Central on our Behind Enemy Lines, which is out right now. So make sure you go listen to that if you're watching this. He went in depth and talked about this. Their defensive tackles last year were pass rushing defensive tackles. That's what they were good at. This defensive front is outside of Brian Thomas Jr. and Dylan Stewart. The interior defensive linemen are more run stopping guys. They're not real big in the pass rush. Now, granted, Oklahoma's offensive line could make them look really dang good pass rushers. I mean, that wouldn't be the first time that's happened this year. And I don't think OU's offensive line has been bad at pass blocking, by the way. Mateer's only been sacked 9 times in 6 games, so that's really not that bad. But that said, I mean, they face. Do we think that Fasusi getting trial by fire with Colin Simmons is going to help with Dylan Stewart this week? You'd hope.
You would hope, because Oklahoma is going to have to curtail the rush from South Carolina. That's where things went haywire last year. I mean, that's South Carolina's strength as a defense. There's no question about it. Their strength is in the pass rush. Sterling Lucas, their defensive ends coach, is a great recruiter, great developer of talent, I should say. And that's how South Carolina's going to come at you. And they're going to try to generate pressure. They're going to try to put John Mateer under duress, and Michael Fasusi and Derek Simmons are going to have to hold up. They're going to have to be able to hold up on the edge, probably in isolation against those guys. And so, man, big test for a true freshman. Maybe the stiffest one he's faced so far. Colin Simmons, perhaps, but man, like between him and a banged up Derek Simmons, man, you're just kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that Oklahoma has what it takes to stave off that pass rush enough to get the offense in gear, get it functioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you can give Fasusi some help on that side. Chip block. Don't have a tight end straight up block Dylan Stewart or Brian Thomas, but give him some help. Don't leave him out there on an island on the blind side. But with Javante Barnes questionable, we'll see what the report says tonight at 7:10. He's obviously going to be your best blocking running back. If you need to run 2 back sets and just keep one back there to just deal with help with the pressure and don't even hand him the ball, so be it. You know what I mean? So, I think with Derek Simmons, I know a lot of people are like, man, this guy gave up a sack against Kent State. This guy is cheeks. It's like that was the worst game of his career. It was an outlier. He didn't give up any sacks against Auburn with a top 5 pick, Kedrick Falk, and NFL players all across that defensive line. He didn't give up a sack against Michigan, who's got NFL players all across that defensive line. So I still remain very high on Derek Simmons. I think you can give Fasusi some help. Derek Simmons was actually your highest rated pass blocker, your second highest rated offensive player on the entire team against Texas. Obviously went out at, right before the half with an injury, but came back, wanted to go back in, couldn't go back in. But, with him, not on the availability report from last night, you expect him to be good to go. So, I think you can trust the right side of the line. I think when it comes down to these two offensive lines, I'm a lot less worried about ours than I think South Carolina is about theirs. I think they've got like 4 starters out. They've got the new offensive line coach. They haven't been good. Yeah, and I'll put our defensive line up against anybody in the country. But as far as our tackles go, you got to give them help. You can't say, hey, you know what? Good luck out there, kid. Like, put them in a position to succeed.
Yeah, I said this last week, going in the Texas game. I'm more worried about, if I'm Texas, I'm more worried about their offensive line than Oklahoma's offensive line. And it was the other way around. So I'm just always leery now. I'm a little gun shy with that phrase. I know you're right, but I'm still gun shy with that phrase just because of, we said that going into Texas and it ended up being the other way around. All right, let's get into some picks. Let's talk about some games this weekend. And let's start with USC at Notre Dame. Night game, South Bend. I'll take Notre Dame.
That's it. You're just taking Notre Dame?
Yeah, I'm just going to take it. I don't know. Like, I just feel like Marcus Freeman, defense, home, night game, South Bend. I'm not 100% sold on USC. I know what they did to Michigan last weekend. I know they have a good defense, which is so weird to say under Lincoln Riley, but they do. I just don't know how I feel about. I don't know that they travel to the point where I feel comfortable with them going into South Bend against a team that I think is going to eventually end up being a playoff team by the end of the season in Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman's one of the best coaches in college football.
He is. There's no question about it. And yeah, I would simply refer you back to how spooky things got for USC and Caleb Williams at the time. The last time the Trojans had to play in South Bend at night in 2023. Yes, Notre Dame is a much better team than their record indicates. I think that's pretty common knowledge, and I think they take care of business on their home field against the Trojans.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jeremiah Love has a big day. USC's defense is improved. I don't think, they're not elite by any stretch of the imagination, but they are good for Lincoln Riley standards. So I think Notre Dame gets the win. Notre Dame is playing for their season. If they lose this game, they are out of playoff consideration.
Yep.
So they're playing for their season at home against a rival. Keep in mind, against a coach in Lincoln Riley who floated the idea of canceling this rivalry. So there's a little bit of extra spice when it comes to Notre Dame against Lincoln Riley. So yeah, I like Notre Dame to win. Not sure if they cover the 9.5, but I like them winning by a score.
Tennessee at Alabama. This is a huge game, rivalry game, the cigar game. I got to tell you, it's at Alabama. It's in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to take Alabama. I just think they skirted by in Columbia, Missouri last week. They got lucky, guys. I mean, they got real lucky. But sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I think the defense is coming around. The black hoodie is undefeated. you know, he's still going to be wearing the black hoodie this weekend. And again, it's at home, Bryant Denny Stadium. I just, I don't think it's, I don't think they lose much there at night. So I'll take Alabama.
Well, here's the way I look at it. First off, I think Ty Simpson's playing better than any quarterback in the country right now.
He is.
And this Alabama team, since losing to Florida State in the opener, they've won 5 in a row. They handled Vanderbilt a couple of weeks ago, an otherwise undefeated Vanderbilt team. But more than that, they found ways to win close games against 2 really talented football teams in Georgia and Missouri. And so to me, that suggests that you put that team in that same type of situation, they're going to deliver, particularly at home, particularly in prime time. And so, yes, I like the Crimson Tide to get it done on their home field and hold serve against the Volunteers. I will take Alabama in this football game.
Yeah, same song, third or fourth verse for me. Every week I get up here and say, hey, I think Ty Simpson's playing the best football in America. I think they finally figured out, what they did on third down against Georgia basically convinced me that Alabama might be the best team in the country outside of maybe Miami, but and Ohio State, of course. But I like this one to be 34-31 Alabama, and that doesn't give them a cover. They're 7.5-point favorites, but it does hit the over. I think much like the Georgia-Tennessee game and much like the Alabama-Georgia game, like defenses that used to be formidable, you know what I mean? Like I can't imagine. OU and Texas came over from the Big 12 that didn't play defense for like 15 years. And they came over and they've got better defenses than your LSUs and Bamas and Georgias. Like just a weird world we're in. But I think that the Alabama-Tennessee score is a high-scoring game that Alabama closes the deal at home.
There's 2 other really big games in the SEC. One is LSU at Vanderbilt. This is a really big weekend, the SEC period, but every weekend's big in the SEC, so that's kind of a redundant statement. LSU at Vanderbilt. I'm going to take Vanderbilt. I think Diego Pavia he's a winner.
Yeah.
He is. At the end of the day, I like him to just win the ball game for Vanderbilt and the Commodores. I do. I look, they're playing well at home. They've done outside of the Alabama game, they've done everything that they're supposed to do this year. They win. I like Diego Pavia. I do. I'm not sold on LSU's offense also. Like their offense has been just stagnant this season. And it was supposed to be this scoring offense that was just going to be strong in the run game. Caden Durham's been banged up some this year. Just nothing has worked out right for the LSU's offense so far this season. And I don't think going into Vanderbilt against a Diego Pavia cocky-led team is just a winning recipe. So I'm going to take Vanderbilt.
What a job Clark Lee has done.
He's done an
who
amazing job.
would have thought 2 years ago that Vanderbilt would be favored against anybody, let alone LSU, by 2025 in conference play? And this team is nationally ranked, for one thing. They're 5-1. They've got a guy in Pavia that's playing good ball at quarterback, proven to be a threat as both a thrower and a runner. Diego Pavia's got 350 plus rushing yards this season.
That's crazy.
He's a serious threat on the ground. I don't know if that gets talked about as much as it should. This is one of those teams, and you never thought you'd be saying this about Vanderbilt. It's one of those teams that, as an Oklahoma fan, you're kind of thankful you don't have to see him on the schedule this year. But I agree. I think they get it done. And part of the reason why is I can't trust LSU. LSU's given me no reason to trust them. What is their marquee win when you look at their schedule? That Clemson win to open the season looks like a complete non-factor right now on their resume. I mean, that's just a game, that they won at this point. They beat Florida and South Carolina by identical 20-10 scores, two rather unimpressive victories against two rather unimpressive teams. And man, if you're looking at their slate the rest of the way, things could get scary for Brian Kelly down there in Baton Rouge, because after this Vanderbilt game, they got to play number 4 Texas A&M and number 6 Alabama back-to-back weeks. Then you get a little bit of a break, Arkansas and Western Kentucky, before you wrap up the regular season in Norman, Oklahoma against the Sooners. So if LSU doesn't figure it out and figure it out fast, they will get exposed by Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt, and things could get worse from there. Things could snowball on that program very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to take the underdogs in this game. Top
Ooh.
10 LSU, the underdogs, as that's crazy. First time since 1941, Vanderbilt has been favored over LSU. Just insane. It's a testament to what Clark Lee has done. I'll be interested to see what kind of success he can sustain after Diego Pavia leaves. Diego Pavia actually comes into this game as the leading rusher on both teams. So just interesting to see that. So yeah, I think LSU finds a way to get it done. As much as I'm annoyed by him, I do think Brian Kelly's a good coach. I think it's just LSU in my mind has a bit of how I felt about Texas for a long time. Like, I know they've got dudes. If they can just put it together, then things are going to go well. You know what I mean? Like, I know Nussmeier's a dude. I don't know what's been going on with him. They're wanting to be a game manager. I don't know. Like, I know they've got dudes at running back. I know they've got very talented, corners, one of the best corners in the country, probably a, Thorpe guy. They've got Whit Weeks just throws up on your field every week. Like, they've got talent. So I'm trusting that Brian Kelly puts it together for a close upset win over Vanderbilt and Clark Lee.
By the way, Parker, you brought up Clemson, and I'm not talking about this pick, but Clemson and SMU play this weekend. How times have changed. That looked like preseason, like it was going to be a massive ACC matchup. And nobody's talking about it because neither team's ranked. They have not turned out to be the programs that we thought they were going to be this season. The biggest game as far as rankings go in the SEC and in college football this weekend is Ole Miss at Georgia. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton. Hope that doesn't get us banned just using his name, which is stupid. I saw that happen to Aaron Murray talking about Stockton. Just crazy. But he's played fairly well over the last few weeks. Georgia's playing a lot better. Ole Miss, like, who's going to be the starter? Have we seen that? Is it going to be Simmons? Are they going to? Do we know?
It's Chambliss.
Chambliss is going to stay the starter?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's crazy. Because it looked like Simmons, before he got injured, was the guy. Chambliss has come in and completely taken that team over as their leader. Weird
Good
times.
problems to have.
Say what? Yeah,
Good
it's
problems to have.
tough having two really good quarterbacks, right? Dadgummit. Yeah. Man, Kiffin. Look. Ole Miss struggled against Washington State because I think they were looking ahead. That was an 11 a.m. kick. They were looking ahead. They weren't really focused on Washington State, and it almost bit them in the butt last Saturday. On the flip side, obviously, Georgia played a tough game at Auburn. They got away with some things that they probably shouldn't have won that game. If you're looking at it, like, there's an argument to be made there. I don't know that I believe it, but there's an argument to be made there. I do love the fact that Kiffin called Kirby Smart fat. That was epic, Lane Kiffin. But because of that, I think Georgia wins the ball game, by the way. I think Georgia comes out on fire. And obviously it's a home game, Sanford Stadium. It's hard for me to see Georgia losing that game. But I do think it's going to be a close one. I do think Kiffin is such a great schemer that he's going to be able to keep it close with just his scheme alone and the way that he game plans. I think Chambliss makes some plays with his legs to keep Ole Miss in the game, but at the end of the day, I think just the overpowering of Georgia's offensive line, their run game, and obviously Stockton at quarterback takes Georgia to victory. I think I think it's a one-score game, but I think they win. What you got, Charles?
I think it's confusing because you look at that spread and Georgia is a 7.5-point favorite.
I think that's big. I think it's big. Yeah,
that's really big.
Yeah.
Texas A&M is a 7.5-point favorite over 2-4 Arkansas, and then the number 7 team in the country, Texas Tech, is a 7.5-point favorite over unranked Arizona State. Like,
but it's at Arizona State too.
No, I get that. But in with Arkansas, Bobby Petrino's never lost as head coach to A&M, but it was 100 years ago. So, but it's just weird. Like I say those things to say, man, this is a big number. I love what Ole Miss is doing this year. I don't think they're quite as good defensively as they are a year ago. I don't think they have the playmakers downfield, even though they've been scoring like crazy. I don't think they have the playmakers downfield. I think they've got really good quarterback play, but I think Georgia wins this game, like probably in another weird way where Kirby Smart has to lie on the podium again about, did he call a timeout? Did he not? Like, I'm sure there's going to be something fluky about this with Georgia at home, but I think Georgia gets it done by a field goal. They do not cover the spread. I think we're going to have a lot of close games this week.
Georgia's one of those teams that just knows how to win games like this. And we've seen it time and again under Kirby Smart when their backs are up against the wall. And I don't know that they're really quite there yet. They have one loss on the resume. Obviously, they can afford 2 or potentially up to 3 and get an at-large bid to the college football playoff. But Georgia's a team that I trust in this circumstance more than I trust Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And I like the way that Trinidad Chambliss has played so far. He's been awesome. But, man, it feels like they've overperformed just a little bit. I don't know that they're 6-0. They're undefeated. Good on them for getting there. I don't know that this is as formidable a team as an Alabama or a Georgia or even a Texas A&M, the teams that are in the top tier of the SEC right now. I don't know that Ole Miss is quite there. And so I think this is a reality check for Ole Miss in this game going to Athens. Between the hedges, and I think Georgia gets it done on their home field and vaults back into the national top 5 in the process.
All right, let's talk about the game that we're doing a pregame podcast on. OU's traveling to South Carolina. I believe it's an 11 a.m. kick, 12 p.m. Eastern kick, by the way. Look.
It's 11:45.
11:45. Okay, so 12:45 kick. Sorry, excuse me. My B. Look, I'm gonna take Oklahoma, and this is why. Like, I feel like the leadership on this team, particularly John Mateer, I don't think he's going to allow the team to nosedive. I think that's what was missing last year more than anything was offensive leadership, or just they were asking leadership of a true freshman and a guy that essentially was a freshman in Jackson Arnold to be the leader of the team. And I don't think that's a recipe for success when you're not going to have strong pieces around you the way that it looked like Oklahoma might have last season. This year's different. Mateer's the leader. He's not just a leader of the team. He's a leader of the offense. He's the leader of the whole team. The whole team. And I think because of that, they move forward. They understand the loss. And I think Mateer, you saw in his interviews, he took the ownership. I guarantee he stood up in front of everybody and said, look, that's not going to happen again. We're not going to be that team. We're going to all that type of stuff. Like, he's going to say the right thing. He's going to do the right things, and he's going to lead by example. And I think because of that, this team's going to come in prepared. They're going to come in utterly focused, and they're going to put together one of their best games this season. I don't know why I feel that. I just do. If I had the biggest two question marks I have going into this game would be the tackles, obviously versus, and we talked about it, versus Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas Jr., and the cornerbacks versus Nick Harbor and Vandavius Jacobs. Nick Harbor is such a large human being and a fast human being. I think they're going to try to get him in some one-on-one 50-50 ball situations with Oklahoma's corner since they're, I think Gentry's 6'1". I think he's the tallest corner they have outside of Jacoby Johnson. But I don't know. I at the same time, I think that the defensive front, as Travis, you alluded, a lot of the guys are doubtful on the offensive line for South Carolina, some of their best offensive linemen. I think you look at that, OU's defensive front will be able to make some plays. They just have to contain Lenore Sellers. If they can do that, and if they can just get Blaylock or Xavier Robinson to 50 to 60 yards rushing, like that's all I'm asking, 50 to 60 yards rushing. I don't think that's a lot to ask, guys. If you can get to that point, I think Oklahoma walks away with a 10-point victory. And right now, I think that's what's going to happen, Oklahoma by 10. I'm going to take, I'll say 24-14 Oklahoma.
Okay. South Carolina, statistically speaking, is one of three teams in the SEC that runs the ball less effectively than OU.
I know.
The other two are Florida and LSU. But you're looking at two offenses whose entire identities revolve around the quarterback. What is Oklahoma if John Mateer does not perform well? What is South Carolina if Lenore Sellers does not perform well? So I think it's a case of, if you want to boil it down to something very, very simple, who outplays whom? Is it John Mateer outplaying Lenore Sellers? Is it Lenore Sellers outplaying John Mateer? Also, which defensive line outplays the other? Can Oklahoma get, especially when we're looking at pass rushers, can our Mason Thomas and Taylor Wine get home more regularly than Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas can? I think that's where the battle is in this football game. And even though they are on the road, even though they are coming off a very unimpressive loss, I like Oklahoma to get it done. And I like John Mateer to get back on track in this football game. I don't think it's a barn burner by any means, which you should be accustomed to if you've been paying attention to Oklahoma football this season. This is no longer a team that's going to win games 41-38. This is a team that's going to win a game somewhere along the lines of, let's call it 23-13. 23-13 Oklahoma. I guess I'm very, very close to your score prediction there, yeah, Brandon. But yeah, I think it's another low scoring type of football game in which Oklahoma's defense shows up and makes a statement and wins the turnover battle for just the second time this season. I think Mateer does enough to keep the offense humming, leads a couple of touchdown drives, and that's ultimately sufficient. I mean, the crazy stat here is that Oklahoma hasn't scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns against any team since joining the SEC in conference play. Mm-hmm. They have not once scored more than 2 touchdowns in a conference game. I actually don't think that changes this week. It will change at some point, but I think 2 touchdown drives is enough to get the job done this weekend. 23-13 Oklahoma.
Yeah, I'm actually going lower than each of you. I've got this thing at like 17-10, 6 there. Oklahoma's defense has given up 7 offensive touchdowns this year. Like, it's like when you look at what this offense is in South Carolina, I don't think they're all of a sudden going to put it together and have a big day against Oklahoma's defense. Not as we've gotten healthier. Kendall Dolby coming back, Eli Bowen coming back. These type of guys, as others have developed and grown, things like that. But I think Oklahoma gets it done. I think if it's the 16, I'll go with the 16-10 to lock it in. I think we score a touchdown, and then Tate Sandell makes 3 field goals. I think he's been great this year. Been really happy with special teams overall. I mean, obviously the block in the back, no block in the back, Texas punt return, notwithstanding, I've been pretty happy with special teams. I think they've been really good. Deacon's unit's been really good. But when you look at, the kicking game for South Carolina, he's not made one over 50, and he's 2 for 4 on 40 to 49. So he's only made 5 field goals this year. So I think you see South Carolina miss a kick or two. They'll make one, get to that 10 points, only give up 1 touchdown to the Gamecocks, but get there to 16, 1 touchdown drive, and then you're just pushing out the lead further and further.
All right, all 3 of us have Oklahoma. We'll see how it goes this weekend. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see if Oklahoma rebounds this weekend and plays a lot better. They need it in a massive way, but so does South Carolina. So that's going to be that place is allegedly very, very hard to play. So even during the day. So we'll see how that goes this weekend. We'll have you covered on OUinsider.com. Make sure you're over there. OU Insider VIP, OUinsider.com. You type that into your little URL and it pops up. Go to the little green button there that says join now. You can sign up for $1 the first week. We'll give you the Athletic as well. Complimentary on 3 and OU Insider for a whole year. So you get a 2-for-1 deal, whether you're month to month with OU Insider, whether you're sign up annually with OU Insider. It doesn't matter. You get that deal if you sign up right now. OUinsider.com. We'd love to have you on there. The board is hopping. It's fun. Community is amazing. Recruiting intel on the daily. Team info on the daily. Basketball intel on the daily. You have it over there, OUinsider.com. If you're a college student with the .edu, doesn't matter if you go to Timbuktu University. I say that every time. But it doesn't matter what university you go to. You email OUinsider@rivals.com. If you are a teacher, whether preschool, K through 12, doesn't matter. Email us from your school email, OUinsider@rivals.com, or active duty military from your active duty military email. To prove you're one of those 3, we will send you a promo code to make sure you get OU Insider for $1 a month for 3 months. That'll get you all the way through right now. Essentially, National Signing Day and the start of the playoffs. Really cool deal. Come join us. Come check us out. Man, we'd love to have you over there. Again, the community is hopping. Fun, fun, fun. If you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, if you're not subscribed to whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us on, hit that subscribe button. It helps us make sure we continue to bring you content on the daily. We bring you behind enemy lines. We get people coming on there. We get specials all the time. We got Austin Stogner, played for both South Carolina and OU. We got a special interview in him about both programs. It was a really good interview. We have Chris Clark from GamecocksCentral.com. On 3, our On 3 brethren came on behind enemy lines to talk about the game, how it's big for both programs and why the keys to win for both programs, all that type of stuff in his mind. The issues with the South Carolina offensive line. He goes very, very in-depth. He was one of the best interviews that I've had in quite some time when it comes to the behind enemy line. So make sure you check that out. That's on our audio and video YouTube platform. Again, thank you, Travis Davison, for joining us as you do every week. Thank you, Parker Thune. My name's Brandon Drum. We will see you on the postgame podcast, win or lose. See you guys later.